Hi, Jesse. One other thing you might want to consider in that you're on the right um, path with your response, but timelines can sometimes get kind of integrated in here in an interesting way because, like, for instance, if we talk about the religious group and making sure that in the school district and the for-profit company, and you talk about them making sure that um, each group has decided on a design, that can actually take longer depending on the group and how they structure that. For instance, if we're talking a for-profit company and we have a CEO that's a CEO owner and it's a smaller or mid-sized organization, they may be the one to completely decide on their own and make all the decisions about the design. And so that's pretty simple. You get one person on board and you make your pitch and you work with that person, and that is how you get where you need to go. However, if you start talking school district and religious group, well, school district, you're probably talking about looking at the school board. And so you can have a very divergent group of people on that school board. They have voting processes, open record laws they have to meet and be compliant with. They may actually have to take it to a vote, depending on the school district and this particular governing regulations, in order to get it passed. They may have to take bids on the project. They may have regulations that say lowest bid wins, regardless of whether they like the design or not. It's more about, are the minimums met in terms of what you put out in the bid, and then lowest price might be the way you grade that. So school district, now you're getting into governmental issues and you're starting to look at open record regulations, and I mean, that can just snowball. And so timeline can be different. And when you're talking about throughout the project, as you have to deal with the customer looks a little different. If we're talking religious group, we may actually be talking about the deacons that are making this decision. And so you still may have a group of people you have to get all on board. However, they may not be as well governed. They may not be as cohesive, and they may not have any regulations that help them in terms of making decisions, how they make decisions, how open that is to the overall church group itself. And I'm going to say church even though it says religious, and that could be a various number of things. So in each of these instances, one of the things you have to talk about or consider is when you talk about the project leader of each group would need to decide on the design. Not quite that simple, depending on which of the types of groups you're talking about and what kind of rules and regulations they actually have to work with, and depending upon how large that group and how that group is governed can make a big impact. So as the project leader on the other side, you will probably have to finesse that situation and not just be able to deal with a project leader from that organization, but actually, depending on the type, have to kind of deal with the complexities of the way in which it governs, operates, and that type of thing. So keep that in mind. And as we move forward and you get into timelines and customer satisfaction and meeting customer expectations, one of the things you're really going to have to then consider is, okay, what type of organization am I dealing with? Is it a governmental organization? Do they have to deal with open record regulations? Do we have an actual bid process that we have to use? Can we vary off the bid at all? What our overages look like? How do we get those approved? So keep that in mind, because as we move forward, that's going to actually build into several of the different subject and knowledge areas, and you're going to need to also always be cognizant of what type of organization you're working with.